everybody. I truly feel that timing is truly everything, especially when it comes to very important things. One of the very important things that in my life that have come to pass is working in depth and continually for the last around 6 years with cryptic pregnancy women. And it's been a long time of truly hands-on work. And I will say, experiencing an enormous amount of toxicity and abuse. And I'm going to say more from within the cryptic pregnancy realm than not, although, of course, there is outside. And then, of course, there are these brilliant gems and moments that I have with women, especially in my work, that I do not want to go unrecognized, and I am truly grateful and honored to have worked with you. But I just feel it is truly, truly time to address something really very important, something that I've been wanting to address for a very long time. And now that it's been 6 years of observation, of hands-on work, of shedding sweat, tears, and even a little blood to help women in cryptic pregnancy, I feel that I have certainly earned several serious stripes in this realm, and actually I have a lot at this point to give through my observational data and, as I said, hands-on experience. I just want to give you a little bit of a background. Basically, I have been working with cryptic pregnancy women for around 6 years. My first cryptic pregnancy began 7 years ago. And in that time, I have worked with hundreds of women online, in person, and on the phone. Now, what I'm going to be addressing today is going to be really important for me to say that when I say I've worked with women, okay, I've worked with hundreds of women, I mean that most of these women I've worked with in a professional capacity. So at the time that I started working, I was a doula, and I had already had in-depth experience in the traditional birth arts at that point. For about 6 years, and I had in-depth experience in the traditional healing arts at that point for about 7 years at that point. And so when I say professional capacity, I have done in-depth intuitive readings on many women, but I've also done just hands-on consulting work when it comes to directly understanding women and their health and their symptoms, especially cryptic pregnancy women, or I should say specifically in the last 6 years. This is literally spending hours and hours reading women's messages to me, mostly via email, even working with them enough and earning enough trust for them to share with me their medical records, their personal histories, and also and this is online, but this is also a lot is over the phone, a lot of it is over video chat. The majority of the women that I have corresponded with, in which I've had an in-depth experience with, I have spoken to over the phone or on video chat, at the very least. Some of these women I actually have traveled hundreds of miles, and some of them have traveled hundreds of miles to come see me and actually do an in-person consulting. So, and actually do an in-person consult. So, my observational data when it comes to cryptic pregnancy and working with cryptic pregnancy women is pretty extensive, and giving literally hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours of herbal, homeopathic, intuitive, energy, medicinal advice to women, and listening to their in-depth explanations of their in-depth symptoms. Many of them, as I said before, I was able to actually go and see them physically. And it is in the last 6 years that I've actually gained the skills, now as a practicing traditional midwife, and I will give all the links below in the description, and explanations about the traditional midwifery profession and how it is not a medical profession, and its in-depth and profound legacy for women and babies since the dawn of time. So I will put all that information in the description. I am an alternative healer. I am in the alternative field. I've actually, through traveling these hundreds of miles, women traveling to me, them spending money out of their own pocket, me spending money out of my own pocket, them spending time away from their families, me spending time away from my family, to literally gain skills that I am going to venture to say, I'm going to hazard a guess, that the majority of health professionals in North America do not have. That is literally learning how to listen to belly map, to feel for cryptic pregnancy babies in the womb, and how to help diagnose a cryptic pregnancy, and literally how to give prenatal care and guidance to a woman going through cryptic pregnancy. And again, so much of it, and this is a great segue into this, so much of it is still such a mystery. I truly feel, as a traditional midwife and healer, that so much of it is meant to be a mystery. And even though there is going to be breakthroughs in the scientific realm and medical realm in the years to come, that there are just going to be things about life itself, and that includes cryptic pregnancy, that is not going to be open for being visible under a microscope. It needs to be felt with the intuition, with the deepest parts of ourselves, especially as women. That being said, I am not an expert in the cryptic pregnancy realm. And I say realm, not field, because there are no experts. There's no such thing as an expert at this point, at least officially. When I say officially, I mean sort of on a mainstream level. Okay, for cryptic pregnancy, it is barely a field. All right, cryptic pregnancy, extended gestation, is a very ancient reality. Actually, it's been around for a very long time, but in terms of modern. In the wake of modern medicine, especially extended gestation, cryptic pregnancy is something that is very new, especially in the West and in North America. So I am not an expert. I am not claiming to be an expert. Everything that I say is observational data, is literally derived from as I said, my footwork, my actual on the ground footwork, hours spent, sweat, tears, and a little blood to carve out and weave a space in the energy and hopefully in society more and more for cryptic pregnancy women. That being said, I would like to get to the meat of why I am making this video. I feel like the time has come that we need to, as women, begin to truly carve out and weave a space, a real space for ourselves in this world, as cryptic pregnancy women, as cryptic pregnancy birth workers, and in doing so, we need to address and we need to work to distance ourselves and dissolve unfortunately, the toxic narratives and figureheads of this community that have been able to take root before women like me. And there are precious few, but there are women out there like me who are actually gaining hands-on experience, intuitive and biological and physical experience in this realm, and are actually sacrificing themselves and their time and their efforts and their passions to make a better world for cryptic pregnancy women. One of these extremely toxic figureheads, and I say this, and I'm sorry if you have been helped by her and her so-called organization, but I'm here to say that I have observed the comings and goings, virtual comings and goings, and then I've actually spent time in her group, and I had to definitely leave after just maybe even a few months, maybe less, in that group, and also especially through the hundreds of women that I have worked with, I have been able to see the overwhelmingly toxic and negative mental, physical, and spiritual impact that this woman has had on the majority of the women I have worked with that have come into contact with her, and many of them have, because this woman and her organization are unfortunately the figureheads of this community. Her organization is called Cryptic Pregnancy Consultants Support Group and the Gilmour Foundation, the Cryptic Pregnancy Experts. And then her website is crypticpregnancy-supportgroup.com. Again, I am sorry if you have, been helped by them and you've had a positive experience with them, but I'm gonna just hazard a guess that you haven't spent literally hundreds of hours in this realm, working on a professional basis, as a health professional, as someone who's literally doing groundbreaking work every single day when it comes to cryptic pregnancy, and seeing directly through women that you have worked with the impact that this organization has had on them. The fact that this organization calls itself experts, to me, is absolutely debilitating and deplorable. I want to go into the reason why I truly feel that Suzanne Huntley, previously Suzanne Wheat, I don't know why she changed her name, maybe she got married, but a lot of these women get so much backlash online, they tend to change their names, or the names of their YouTube or whatever, to gain a more private profile. But I should say they start so much toxicity and stir up so much toxicity that they draw the backlash to themselves. So again, her name is Suzanne Huntley, and her, and I've already said her website, Cryptic Pregnancy Support Group. And basically, from what I've seen, this woman, Suzanne, she has a doctrine, and her doctrine has to do with beating away at this narrative, drumming away at this narrative, that the only possible explanation for a cryptic pregnancy is that cryptic pregnancies always last years. Women experiencing cryptic pregnancies should not pay attention to any other health issues that they may or may not be having during the experience. From what I've seen, women shouldn't even really, she does not encourage women to actually do any kind of research regarding any other possibility or explanation about what could be happening to a woman's body during a cryptic pregnancy experience. I'm going to go into sort of her philosophy and why I think it's incredibly destructive. I truly feel that in time, I truly hope that it seems like she's kind of lost momentum, honestly, but she's still around, and it honestly makes me sad, and it makes me angry, to be quite honest, that she still has the influences that she has, the foothold that she has. I'm going to just read a little bit throughout this video about sort of just from her website. A cryptic pregnancy. So this is from her website. It says, what is a cryptic pregnancy? A cryptic pregnancy is a pregnancy where there is no detectable HCG in the mother's system due to a hormonal imbalance, resulting in an extremely long gestation period that is typically 3 to 5 years. Both urine and blood pregnancy tests will be negative during a cryptic pregnancy. So let's just stop there for a second. She claims to be an expert. I'm going to tell you right now, when I look at all her entire website, I don't see any merits. I don't see any, and when I say merits, I don't mean, I'm not someone who needs a diploma from you. I'm not someone who needs you to have fancy credentials. I'm talking about merits. I'm talking about, have you traveled hundreds of miles to women to go and observe their symptoms, to encourage them, to literally be there and hold their hand while they're crying, and learn the skills that really no other health professionals have to find and detect and take care of a cryptic pregnancy baby and mother? Do you have emails that don't just have conversational sort of sharings of symptoms and then you telling them what your expertise is, but that you literally have emails that email after email after email for a year, 2 years, with the same women, okay, giving their in-depth explanations of their symptoms. Phone calls that go over the same thing. And you answering back in detail things that are deeply derived from your experience, either as a health professional or just as an experienced mother Okay, is there any of that? I don't see any of that. Everything that I write in my website, I'll put my website in the description, is derived, and I say so, is derived from direct experience. And I say whether it's my theory, I say whether I do not claim to be expert, but if this is my theory, this is my observation, this is my hands-on experience. I have read her entire website. I don't see anywhere, except for in one section where she says, cavalierly, in my opinion, just from what I can see, like one sentence, that she has followed hundreds of cryptic pregnancy women's experiences. I'm sorry, followed these? It seems like Suzanne's number one priority, from what I have seen in her groups, on her page, in her website, in the way she has corresponded with my clients, is that she is the expert. And not only that, she likes, as long as she is able to attract enough women, vulnerable women, and attention through her rhetoric, she relies on women being eternally a victim to their bodies and to their circumstances. To be honest, a lot of cryptic pregnancies, and here's another thing, I've seen her browbeat women, browbeat women in her groups, mock them, humiliate them, and basically these women are vulnerable and frightened, and she says things like, if you're bleeding heavily, if you're hemorrhaging, that this definitely, in fact, she does say this on her website. Let me find it here. So this part of her website addresses bleeding, and I just want to read this entire paragraph, or maybe a couple paragraphs. Not sure where to stop here at the moment, but I'm going to keep reading. This is from her website. Periods/menses during cryptic pregnancy do not stop. They become, quote, odd. The quote, odd periods are indicative of a cryptic pregnancy. The continued periods can be light, heavy, or only spotting. They can be very short or very long. They may be large or tiny clots, or none at all. The blood can be pink, orange, all these different colors. It can be thin, it can be watery. This is all on her website, so you can go ahead and check out her website. The quote, odd periods will not stay regular or predictable. They may get erratic. Okay, something that I wanted, the part that I wanted to get to here is that it's true. It's not uncommon for women to continue bleeding during cryptic pregnancy. Some women who aren't having cryptic pregnancy bleed during pregnancy. So that does happen. But the part that I wanted to get to here is the odd periods. She says here, the odd periods do not threaten the pregnancy, no matter how heavy, painful, or long. Again, this is the core of what I want to address here, is Suzanne's. I want to implore you to understand that this woman, just from what I've seen, and I've given a pretty in-depth explanation as to what I've seen and how I have been able to attain the data that I know on her, and direct experiences with clients that I have worked in depth with. That the core of what I want to address is that she relies on women being trapped. If she can indoctrinate enough women to be eternally pregnant, to be eternally trapped in their circumstances, and not to look at any other health issues, including heavy bleeding or hemorrhaging, so many women who have been indoctrinated by Suzanne's rhetoric. And the only way I can understand that they are indoctrinated is because they're vulnerable and they're frightened and they're easily swayed. And some of them, I will say, are not very educated on basic biology, and not very in touch with their bodies in general. So that doesn't help. But she's directly saying, as a self-made so-called expert of cryptic pregnancy, in which there is absolutely no field at this point, okay, at least in North America and the West, all right, that women should not pay attention to the fact that perhaps when they've hemorrhaged, when they've bled heavily, then maybe they can consider the fact, and their symptoms are going on for years, that they need to consider the fact that a miscarriage has occurred. A missed miscarriage, which is a reabsorption, and it can be a little bit of both, okay? A more commonly understood and known miscarriage, which is when the body dispels the tissue of the fetus, okay? The body dispels the baby. That she's saying outright, ignore these symptoms. I've seen her in her groups tell women, warn them against going to the hospital when they hemorrhage. I'm not saying go to the hospital, but to just sort of get the feel of what she's saying. Warning them against going to the hospital when they're hemorrhaging because they might be given medications that is bad for their baby. Now, it's to each woman's own. The problem is this rhetoric that I'm telling you, isn't here to help women. If it was here to help women, then there wouldn't be this incessant insistence on keeping women in perpetual pregnancy. In other words, in perpetual symptoms that need addressing, that need explanation, that need a holistic view on them. So women, obviously, you shouldn't just jump up and take any medication a doctor says to take that might be harmful to your baby. I am the first person to say that. On the other hand, saying that hemorrhaging has no effect, hemorrhaging or heavy periods or painful bleeding has no effect whatsoever on a pregnancy is deeply inaccurate. And especially if a woman is enduring pregnancy symptoms for years and years, then these periods, these heavy bleeding times, need to be addressed. This woman's psychological need to be stuck in this situation needs to be addressed. And I'm telling you, through my hands-on experience with women going through cryptic pregnancy experiences, many will give birth, but many won't. Many miscarry. And I'm telling you, the ones who are able to address their symptoms fully, on a spiritual, psychological, and physical level, are able to either bring their pregnancies to term in a healthy way, or they are able to let go of the pregnancy and move on with their lives. In essence and in closing, I really, truly desire to begin to carve out and weave a legitimate space in the world for women going through cryptic pregnancy. And I want to say another thing, is that she doesn't want, from what I can see, and from my experience with her rhetoric and her influence within the community, which has been quite a lot, okay? And her effect and impact on women psychologically, especially. She doesn't want to legitimize this. If she legitimizes this and creates a bridge to the outer world, she no longer matters. Do you understand? Her rhetoric that controls and keeps women in victimhood no longer matters. I truly wish to continue the grassroots important work of cryptic pregnancy. But I want women to start coming out of this perpetual vulnerability, victimhood, and ignorance. And I say that with as much compassion as I am capable. If we remain ignorant of our own bodies, we do not do our own research, we do not have our own active internal life, okay, intuitive lives, then we will be vulnerable to people, to women like Suzanne and her rhetoric. Again, my goal is to truly help carve out and weave a legitimate space in this world for cryptic pregnancy women. And I want women like me to start rising up and not allowing people like Suzanne Wheat or Huntley and her so-called foundation and expert organization, and then people like Crystal Lujan on the other side of the same coin. They have different rhetoric, but they are the same. They love control, they love attention, and they are narcissistic in rhetoric, in speech, in the way they treat others and themselves. One way you can truly know this is because if the conflict is over, if the mayhem, if the victimhood, if the toxicity within cryptic pregnancy realm is over, then they cannot and do not exist, and they cannot and do not matter. Please, let's work on legitimizing. And when I say legitimizing, you don't need a fancy degree, okay? You don't need a huge amount of central influence within pharmaceuticals and the medical field. What you need is a commitment to actual experience, hands-on experience, grassroots work, and on-the-ground work with cryptic pregnancy women. And have faith and trust and intuition in your observations. Write them down. Be a true influencer. Be an intuitive woman, powerful woman that you are, to create a legitimate space for cryptic pregnancy women everywhere. Thanks so much for listening. I pray that there's more to come. Life has been quite busy and quite full, and I'm reevaluating again, my work with Cryptic Pregnancy, I can feel there's a lot of good things to come. So again, thank you so much for your support and your listening, and be sure to check the description for links and other resources. Thank you so much. God bless.